Tim and Mayor, that was a great speech. I sat there as he was giving that speech and thought, maybe I should just say hello and sit down. Not a chance. But Mayor, that was a great speech, clearly defining principles that are key to this great land and this great community of Saline. So thank you, Saline, for giving me the opportunity to celebrate something I love to celebrate with my family and my friends, and have done it for too many years now. But it never gets old because of who we remember. It's a great privilege to be part of this Memorial Day service. What a wonderful day it is. Memorial Day stirs our hearts, doesn't it? With extra special meaning and emotion, especially at a time when America's brave force continue in harm's way. During America's wars of the past almost 241 years, more than 1.1 million of our nation's finest citizens have died in military service. We remain free today, a free country, with the longest history of uninterrupted freedom of any nation on earth, thanks to them. This day is for all who have died, first and foremost, but is also for all who served and all who continue to serve. From the Revolutionary War, when colonists left their plows to take up arms to defend a budding nation, to the Second World War, whose heroes we have finally honored with a fitting monument, to the Korean and Vietnam Wars, whose warriors we didn't honor as we should. And today we continue to welcome them home. We honor these individuals as men and women who have served with distinction and valor. We serve those who went into Desert Storm and into the Afghan and Iraqi wars that continue today, different from all other wars in the fact that they will never end. Wars against extreme terrorism, arrogant, evil, mindless terrorism. A war that will truly never end. But these and other wars have shown that America has stood ready to defend our freedom and the freedom of all who seek our help. Memorial Day is also for the families of those who have served. As General Norman Schwarzkopf said of families during a special address to Congress, he said this, he said, "It is you who endure the separations, the hardships, and simply endure them because you chose to love a soldier, a sailor, an airman, a Marine, or a Coast Guardsman. But it is your love that gave us strength in our darkest hour. You are truly the wind beneath our wings." The memories of unbridled patriotism that began our war efforts most recently have diminished, and the jubilance of initial victories in places like Baghdad and Mosul has subsided, followed by quiet resolve. But let us never, never forget the needs of our defenders. We must never, never again allow a repeat of our dark past when a divided nation shamefully ignored or unforgivably vilified America's participants in unpopular wars. They were there for us, regardless of the dangers of battle, and we must always be there for them. Likewise, it is shameful to hear the strident voices of some of our political leadership today, giving aid and comfort to the enemy in their libelous, unbridled, and sometimes self-serving pronouncements and information leaks. This must stop, and the people must say so. As we gather today, we mourn our lost sons and daughters and brothers and sisters and husbands and brothers and daughters in our lives. We also proudly salute our sons, our brothers, our daughters, our sisters, our husbands, our wives, our fathers, our mothers, and our friends who have served America and returned to us. They served because of duty, because of honor, and because of country. These have been the bywords of the hundreds of thousands of brave men and women who have served and died in order that the interests and ideals of the United States of America might prevail. They believed in a concept called freedom, a nation called America, and that America stands for freedom, and that America is great because it has been blessed by the one true God upon whose principles we were founded. The veil of time, along with talented authors, have glorified our past military encounters to the extent that the actual suffering involved has sometimes been glossed over. We enjoy and often take for granted our liberty and freedoms without acknowledging the high price paid for those treasures. We are so prone to get lazy, selfish, impatient, and shallow in our patriotism when it costs us so little. But in all wars, the ultimate cause was freedom. The men and women who risked their lives did so because they believed in freedom. Not just freedom for themselves and freedoms for their families, but also freedom for distant lands and peoples. It was more than a mere belief. To them, it was a conviction. And to them, it was their duty to fight for freedom. They knew that they might die, but they knew that they would not die without honor. Just think, 400,000 in 4 long years died in the battles of the Second World War, and the people, the leadership, the media, and even Hollywood stood with them. Duty, honor, country. In these words, these ideals, we find other concepts. Concepts like pride, courage, hope, faith, honesty, trust, and humility. These are the traits which give character to all of us. They create in our hearts the sense of wonder, the unfailing hope of the future, and the joy and the inspiration of life. For aren't they patterned after the attributes of our Creator God, in whom we trust? If there's any fear for the freedoms we have held so dear for over 240 years, it lies not with the dead that we honor today, but with the living. Each of us who are charged with preserving the peace which these men and women fought so bravely for and died for. Peter Marshall, the great chaplain of the U.S. Senate, said it this way. He said, "Peace is not made by compromise. It does not grow out of the formal garden of the world. It is rather a product of a blacksmith's forge, hammered out on the anvils of sacrifice and suffering, heated in the fires of devotion to righteousness, tempered in the oil of mercy and goodness." Peace is a costly thing. We can provide all the money and armaments for our troops. We can provide all the troops that are necessary. But in the final analysis, it has to be the will of the people involved that determines whether or not they have the ability and the desire to maintain freedom in the face of aggression. No weapon in the arsenals of the world is quite so formidable as the will and moral courage of a free people. It is a weapon which our adversaries in today's world do not have. And yet it is a weapon we are giving away in abundance today. Just listen to some of our political leadership, our media, our academic elite, and yes, common ordinary citizens who are caught in the value system that says it's all about me and my comfort. Franklin Delano Roosevelt said it this way. He said, "A nation that destroys its soul destroys itself." And Jonathan Witherspoon, who signed the Declaration of Independence and paid for it with his life, said, "A republic once equally poised must either preserve its virtue or lose its liberty." We must remind our enemies that peace is still a high aspiration for us. But freedom is the highest. We will sacrifice for it, we will negotiate for it, but we will never, never surrender for it. We must instill in our children and every generation to come the pride of being free, free Americans, and knowing that nothing comes without a cost. Ronald Reagan punctuated this point when he stated it this way. He said, "We didn't pass freedom to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." Friends, if we do this, we need not worry about the future of freedom. You see, I'm confident that the future will be bright, illuminated in part by the torch passed to us by those who have died in defense of our freedom. And the future will be bright because as Americans, we let the world know that we still believe in things like duty and honor and country. I thank each of you here today. I thank especially all of you who served and gave. And I would hope that on this day, more than ever, we will recognize that God has indeed blessed America. Thank you.